So I do want to acknowledge that I'm coming to you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Secwepemc people. I think that's important to always center that conversation. I've been doing a lot of social justice work lately around the pandemic recovery, of course, period promise, and things like that. And it always strikes me that, whatever XYZ societal problem exists, there's always the caveat that, and then for Indigenous people or Indigenous women, this issue affects them even in an astronomical amount or an even greater way. And so I think it's important that we start our meetings in a good way that acknowledges that traditional history and ancestry. On that note, one of our presenters made I think a really pertinent suggestion for us today to just begin our meeting with a moment of silence to honor, the 215 missing children found buried on the reserve near Kamloops Residential School yesterday. As a mom, I can't imagine my son being taken away from me and not returning. So I think we should just take a minute. Okay, thank you for that. And I think that minute was necessary for me to collect myself. So I wanted to introduce who we have on the call today, as well as kind of the agenda of what we're going to go through. So today, first thing that we're going to do is review the United Way Period Promise research report. And so I'll be doing that. I am a member of Women Who Whine, who is the organization that has committed to doing a period promise drive here in Salmon Arm. As I was asking for everyone else's bios and titles, I realized that I don't actually have a title of my own right now. I'm on maternity leave. So just to give you an idea of the many hats that I sort of take on in the community is I am a member, obviously, and organizer with Women Who Whine. I consider myself a political activist. I'm a BCGEU member. That's the BC Government Employees Union. And in my usual role, I am an employee at Okanagan College, and my most important role right now is as a mother. We're also going to hear from the experiences of local community service organizations. So we are lucky to have Paige Hilland here with us today from the Safe Society. Paige is a passionate feminist committed to community development and addressing gender-based violence in our communities. She's worked with the Safe Society for over 10 years, spending much of her time working in frontline service, and is now executive coordinator of programming and community development. She has a BA from the University of British Columbia with a major in political science and a minor in women and gender studies. She works in the community with the Shuswap Community Foundation and spends a lot of her free time enjoying the many Great Door activities that the Shuswap has to offer. And she is, I know she's getting ready to go enjoy that outdoors this weekend right after this call. She acknowledges she's an uninvited settler ancestry living on the unceded and traditional territory of the Secwepemc people. She's also a graduate of Salmon Arm Secondary and proud to be once again living in her hometown. We'll also have Monica Crease from the SD83 Wellness Centers to share her experience working with that demographic. Monica is the center's coordinator and manager for 2 school-based medical clinics located in 2 high schools, one in Salmon Arm and one in Siskiyou. She's also a project lead for a vulnerable population outdoor lunch program called Food with Friends that launched when COVID shut down the 2 local soup kitchens. Next on the agenda, we will hear from Jean Legua. I'm not sure if I got your name right there, but she's going to talk to us from the United Way Southern Interior BC branch. This was an initiative that started on the Lower Mainland, but is making its way across our province. And so she's going to share with us some thoughts about how the Period Promise campaign can continue to grow and grow year after year. Jean is a community builder through and through. In 2015, her family moved from the Philippines to the unceded territory of the Silex Nations, colonially known as the Okanagan region. Her academic, professional, and volunteering career has given her the opportunity to witness and learn from different communities within British Columbia and abroad. In her current role as the Director of Events and Community Engagement in the United Way Southern Interior BC, she works with local partners across the region to address and advocate for hard-hitting community issues such as period poverty. So then we'll have an opportunity to take some questions from you, our participants, and so we'll use the chat function for that, as well as if you just want to raise your hand, that's a great way to participate as well. Keep in mind that that Q&A portion is mainly for you to ask questions of either myself on the Period Promise report, or from our local community leaders, or from Jean. And then we'll get into talking about what you can do to make a big difference in solving this problem of period poverty right here in our community. And if you have any questions about that aspect, I would just encourage you to stay in touch with some of our local organizers and our local team, which brings me to introducing you to that team, which is those folks that are part of Women Who Whine. I think we have about 40 to 50 members currently. And when I brought this idea to Women Who Whine, saying, you know, can we get something? Can we get a period promise drive going in Salmon Arm? These 5 ladies were the ones that really stepped up and said, yes, let's do this. And I haven't utilized their talents or their energy as much as I should have lately, but I know that they have a lot to offer, and they're going to continue working on this with me beyond this sort of kickoff event. So these are the folks that will be involved with you. We have Kaylee, Laura, Elena, Kathleen, and Monica as well. So with that, let's jump into this report. So full disclosure, I was not involved in this research report, and nor did I create this presentation. I'm just the conduit to share this information with you. So this was actually a presentation shared last night on the United Way Lower Mainland's much larger sort of period promise event. So I'll try to do it justice, just to give you an idea of where this sort of campaign came from, and the evidence and the data behind it. And then we'll move into sort of the local level stuff with hearing from Paige and Monica. So like I said, I'll try to do this justice. So where did this all begin? The government provided United Way Lower Mainland with a grant to conduct research into the shape and impact of period poverty in British Columbia. It's now actually one of the largest studies on the issue in Canada, and perhaps even North America, which is really cool that British Columbia is really leading the way on this very important, very progressive issue. They partnered with Blue Cross, Van City, and as well as some menstrual product companies like Always and Tampax to access additional funding and establish a purchase rate for product that was below market rate. So what they did is they went out to 12 community organizations across the province with free menstrual products to give to their clients for 12 months. So it was a commitment of those products available at those organizations for 12 months, and then asked them to respond to surveys indicating the impact of the program on their relationship with their clients. There was also an online survey, so a public-facing survey research stream that asked people about their experiences with period poverty, how it impacts their day-to-day, the benefits that came from having access to menstrual products, and as well, they made sure to allow for cross-sectional analysis. There was some basic demographic information. There was more than 1,650 responses received, and all of the phases of questions were developed and made available through the Period Promise website. So before we get to the data, there's some important testimonials to be heard. This one says, I grew up in poverty. I did not have access to menstruation products very often as a teenager. I was reduced to using very unhygienic alternatives that did not work, and I now know were a major risk for infection. I was very ashamed of my family's low income and that I could not afford such a basic item. It greatly affected my self-esteem and sense of self-worth. I could never ask for help directly because of those feelings and thoughts of inadequacy and insecurity. I'm now in my 30s, but I still carry a lot of the shame of growing up in poverty. It's something I work on every single day. This issue especially made me feel ugly and dirty and unworthy. So some major findings from the report and the research that was done is that period poverty is actually quite common. Approximately 51% of respondents to the public survey indicated that they had struggled to purchase products for themselves. 68% of those respondents were Indigenous, 79% indicated that they had a physical or mental disability, and 64% of them respondents had annual household incomes below $40,000. 26% of respondents indicated that they had gone through a period without having menstrual products available to them, and 13% of respondents indicated that as dependents, so a child in a family, their families had not been able to afford menstrual products on their behalf. So pretty shocking. Have not known where to purchase products that they can afford. So about 30% of all respondents indicated that. And then as you go down into the demographics, it gets higher depending on the demographics. So a very clear theme is that Indigenous folks and people with physical or mental disabilities are significantly disadvantaged in this area as well. I mean, I guess that just makes sense. If you think about, I think living on disability, the disability payment currently is like $800 a month or something like that. And I don't even know how you would find rent for less than that. So when you think about how much money you have to spend on other things in your life, it makes sense why those communities are really struggling. This part of the report sort of allows us to visualize what the effect of not having access to menstruation products has. So are people missing school because of it? Are they leaving school because of it? Are they missing work? Are they missing social events? And again, you can see that it's broken down by some demographics as well. So the ones they've chosen to represent here are Indigenous, people of color, so our racialized community, English as a second language, things like that. So as you look at different demographics, it can get definitely higher and higher. They also asked the question, when I don't have access to menstrual products, am I more likely to stay at home than go out? And they used a Likert scale, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with: strongly disagree, strongly agree, being at the top scale. And the most common response was, I strongly agree. So we know that when people don't have access to these products, that it's keeping them out of community and it's keeping them from participating fully in their lives, which has a huge impact on their mental well-being, their social well-being, as well as their economic well-being, because if you can't work, it's pretty hard to stay on top of that as well. So another major finding was that increasing access to menstrual products has a major impact. Having access to free product in community has a broad positive impact on individuals. People feel they can be more engaged in their community, more connected, and more connected to the agency where they received the product. So of the 12 partnering organizations who participated in the project, 10 indicated that clients told them that it made their lives more affordable. 9 indicated that their clients had told them that having access to free menstrual products at their organization improved the physical and mental health and well-being of their clients. And 9 indicated that they had been told that the program improved their quality of life or that of a dependent. So these are just some corresponding testimonies. When I go to get free menstrual products from the Women's Center on the North Shore, I tend to feel relieved because it's an extra $20 I don't have to spend. If an epidemic or natural disaster happens, I don't have a lot of money to save up for it. So this was actually before we got into COVID-19 and the pandemic. So a little bit of foreshadowing there. When I went to alternate education, age 15 to 17, I was provided with free menstrual products and food, and I went from dropping out to getting straight A's and having great attendance. I used to grab extras at first and almost hoard them. Then I realized they would always be there, and that was not necessary. So that's another key component of, I think, the Period Promise campaign, is that we continue the momentum so that people can have the opportunity to rely on these organizations to provide this, so that it's not, there isn't that fear-based mentality of like, where am I going to get these products next month? So the conclusion was that menstrual products are broadly difficult for people in BC to access, but particularly difficult for people who rely on access to free product. Lack of access to menstrual products has a substantive impact on people's access to public life. Indigenous people and people living with disabilities experience these impacts more than other groups. Broader access to free menstrual products in our community will benefit everyone, but it will make it much easier for people with lower incomes and lower levels of education to access both community organizations and public life. Lastly, community service organizations are an important part of how we can increase access to menstrual products for vulnerable populations in BC. So I just want to, that kind of finishes off the report, but I think it brings up a good point, that, you know, when I started this campaign in the Salmon Arm context, I thought, okay, what are the organizations that I think could use these products? And I happen to have connections to two of those organizations, which is the Safe Society and Monica at the Wellness Center. So that's where we kind of started with a commitment. After going through this report, it's very obvious that there are certain community organizations that probably need these products as well. And so my hope is that we smash through our goals of donations and product donation, so that we have so much money and so many products that we can expand our commitment to Indigenous organizations. I know Monica's put me in touch with some of the public health nurses that work at the bands, as well as possibly some of our organizations that specifically help our population living with disabilities. So I just wanted to comment that those are the two organizations we've committed to right now, but we absolutely want to expand, hopefully this year, and if not this year, in the coming years, as this becomes an annual event as well. I thought that was I thought the conclusions was the conclusion, but apparently there are recommendations. Provision of menstrual products to community organizations should be more widespread so that the program can have greater impact. Kind of just what I was talking about. Let's get lots of products so we can have them at the many community organizations that many vulnerable populations access. And then free menstrual products should be more accessible in communities across a broad variety of access points. Combating menstrual stigma must be a part of any program moving forward, and creating a roundtable for identifying gaps in services and programs addressing period poverty in BC. And I think Monica is going to talk maybe a little bit about those gaps in services, because there has been huge progress made in this sort of realm. So for example, the school districts have made a commitment to provide free menstrual products in their schools, which is huge, and arguably a lot of that decision came out of this work and the research and the reports that have gone into that. But as we, make big wins, sometimes there's gaps that we don't think about, and I think maybe Monica's going to talk a little bit about that. Why do we do this? With menstrual products, I can be free to go out and be part of society and go for a walk, go grocery shopping, do all the basic things that others take for granted outdoors. I can feel like a human being that matters, to not feel embarrassed and pathetic for not being able to afford something so simple as tampons. I can be happy and positive and productive. So thank you. I think one thing to maybe highlight that wasn't highlighted in this, and just because that report was done, I forget when the research was done, but I know the campaign has been going for a few years now. So COVID-19 wasn't even on the radar in this research or in this report. So I think it's really important to note as well that any experiences that people were having accessing these products before has most likely, if not definitely, been exacerbated by the pandemic. We know that vulnerable folks are even more vulnerable now in every way imaginable. So I just wanted to add that in there because I hadn't mentioned that aspect of it. So I think it's particularly important that we, be expanding our the Period Promise campaign here across the province. And I'm definitely grateful that there are some folks interested in learning what we can do here in Salmon Arm. So thank you. With that, I'm going to ask that Paige and Monica share their experience from being a community organization. So Paige, maybe if you want to go first, that would be great. I did provide them with some kind of guiding questions, but they're largely just going to share their experience.
Sure. Thanks, Christine. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. I want to just thank Christine and Women Who Wine and all the organizers and contributors of this event. The Safe Society is always grateful for our community. We have a really exceptional community here in the Shuswap that's been really supportive of the work that we do. So I'm really grateful to be here and to talk about some of the work that we do as it relates to this Period Promise campaign. So yeah, Christine provided us with some questions and just wanted to know how menstruation products would be used by our organization. So the Safe Society does operate a number of programs, which includes the Transition House. We have outreach programs, victim service programs, counseling programs for adults and children, and sexual assault support service as well. So we provide menstruation products through our Transition House. That's probably the main place that we're providing products to people. So folks that are living in the shelter can access products, but we also support a number of people that drop in for ongoing support through the Transition House. And then we also have a space that's called the Human Connection Hub, where we give out free items like household goods and clothing. And then another thing that we give out through that hub quite a bit is menstruation products. We'll also provide them to any client using any one of our programs, as well as we operate a 24-hour-a-day crisis line, and the Transition House is a 24-hour-a-day facility. So we often become aware of people in evenings and after hours times that don't have access to products, and we really try to fill in that gap in those crisis hours where we can. We also have a lot of folks that are using our services that aren't accessing some of your more traditional options to get menstrual products. Like they may not be going to food banks or other programming. They may have been struggling with guilt and shame, or they may be concerned about safety. And so if they're connected with us and we're able to fill that gap for them and getting some period or menstruation products, that's what we want to do. And we really believe in meeting people where they're at. So if we can provide a product for someone with dignity, with confidentiality, we really want to do that. So we try to have things out and accessible for people. So we've got baskets of products in our spaces so people can kind of grab and take what they need. And yeah, we don't want to bounce people around either. So sending them to somewhere else to get products, we really want to try and help them when we can. And yeah, in terms of demand, like we don't specifically track how many products we would give away, but we do often have people that are coming into our programs, into the Transition House with just kind of what they have, the clothes on their back. So being able to help them out. And yeah, in terms of general service use, like our Transition House last year had over bed stays for women and over 700 bed stays for children. And then the year prior to that, we had over 2,300 bed stays for the year. We also have 1,162 referrals for service. So that's not necessarily someone staying in the transition house, but accessing some sort of supportive service through that program. And then types of menstruation products that are popular or in demand would be things like tampons with applicators, and sort of throughout the spectrum of sizes and absorbencies. Some thinner maxi pads are always in demand. And what we're seeing lately is popularity of like menstrual cups. I think they're becoming more popular with young people, and also they're really budget friendly because people aren't having to purchase them all the time. So that would be our wish list of items if we had one when it comes to menstrual products. And then just wanted to talk a little bit about how it would affect people if they didn't have access to these sorts of products. And this to me is the really important and impactful part. Many of our clients are just starting out on their own. They might have children. As Christine mentioned, the cost of living in our area is absolutely astronomical. And so, you know, people are just trying to budget and make things work. So if they have to pay for products for their period, they may then struggle to buy food, pay their rent, that sort of thing. So we never want to see people having to make the decision between buying food and buying products they need for their period. Yeah, and like I mentioned before, accessing other services may be challenging for people for safety reasons, confidentiality reasons. Yeah, and sometimes people will stay with us more than once. It's kind of part of the nature of leaving an abusive relationship. And every time they're with us, they will get menstruation products. They make sure to make a point to take some with them so that when they do need them, that they are able to access them without the worry about finding them or the expense of getting those things. Yeah, and I think there's just, again, like for us specifically, there's a lot of clients we support that are really struggling with that guilt and shame because of their experiences of abuse and trauma. And Christine touched on this during the PowerPoint. There is also a lot of feelings of guilt and shame around accessing menstruation products and around experiences of poverty. So I think as an organization that works with people who've experienced trauma and abuse, I think it's really important for us to be able to help out with menstruation products so that people can take them in a way that they don't have to feel shame. We don't track what people take. We don't restrict what people take in terms of menstruation products. So it's really helpful for us when we have a good supply of products coming in so that we're able to give them out to people. And always, like, the most impactful part, people may come for a practical item. They may come because they need pads and tampons or food, but it really provides a connection point for us with people. So, you know, they come in because they need a practical item, but our staff are there and they're able to check in with the person, provide them with support. So I think it goes beyond just providing those practical things. It's much bigger than that too. And I think that covers the questions, but I'm happy to answer any questions later on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's super interesting to hear that products like a Diva cup or menstrual cup would be welcome. I've heard some people suggest that, but I also have, you know, reservations about, I personally use one, but like you need access to, like, it's just a little bit more complicated, and I don't want to assume that somebody in a vulnerable situation wants to take that on, right? But I am excited that that's a product that people have been asking for, and I would love to explore taking some of the money and saying like, okay, we're gonna buy 5 menstrual cups for folks or something like that you guys could have. I think that's awesome. Very cool. Monica, What can you tell us
Thank you.
about your work at the Wellness Center? I'm sure
Well,
you'll
thank
explain a little bit about what that is. But.
Right. Well, I'm going to actually ride on Paige's coattails, because one of the other things I didn't mention, and it segues to something, is that I'm the sexual assault response coordinator with the Safe Society. And in the work that I do for the Food with Friends programs, we have a number of people that come for lunch that are sex workers. And they have expressed a need for the OB type tampons, because they actually use those because they continue to work while they have their period. And so we've been supplying those through we have a sea can out in a parking lot. And so we have some product there for them. And so that's just to keep that in mind, that there is a need for that. And also at the lunch program, we have a number of vulnerable women that are still menstruating and in need of product. They tend to prefer tampons because it's just easier. They don't often have access to regular showers or bathing, so that works better. And so that's what we buy for them. We get people that give us money, and then we provide it for them out of the sea can. And it's a very they're very comfortable there, because we also hand out harm reduction supplies, and we've become sort of a bridge, a little bit of a connecting place for them. So that's just the one hat. My other hat, which I love, is in the wellness centers. And as Christine mentioned, the Ministry of Education has a policy where they're providing products for the students. However, they're very one size cardboard applicator Tampax, which are rather large and unwieldy, the girls have said. And it's a pad that isn't it's almost a diaper type pad. So it's not built for these young ladies. So they're coming to us in the wellness center. We were handing out products before. And so we have the types that they tell them, I ask them, what do you want? And that's what we go and buy for them. So they'll come and get them. The school has a policy with how many they will put out at a time. So they're in the bathroom, they sit on the counter. They put out minimal amounts, and the janitors only check twice a day. And so when they're gone, they're gone. And of course, very few girls will go and ask for more. I do know that what happens is that people will grab a handful if they can, because it's a weekend coming or they need it for overnight. They don't have the means. Sullivan is a more white bread school, and we do still see that happen. Eagle River, though, is really great, because the principal there, if you tell him they're out of product, he gets the janitor in again to refill it. So it's a different type of administration. Eagle River tends to go through more based on the population, even though they're grades 7 to 12. They know that there is that they're taking extras, and that's fine. The school doesn't blink an eye about it. They just keep putting out the product. So that's been eye-opening for me as to how much more they go through, but it stands to reason based on the demographic that school serves. And also we have in Sullivan, there is a classroom for kids with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And Women Who Whine helped put together personal care kits for them. A number of these young ladies actually come from families that also have mental health struggles in their own family and diverse abilities. And definitely poverty really shows in terms of because of a parent, as you mentioned, being on disability. And so the staff there is really loving and caring, and have even helped to teach these young people how to use their product, even how to dispose of it, because that's not something that they would often know. You don't flush it down the toilet or whatever else. So we continue to bring boxes upstairs to them so that they have them, and they have a neat little bag that they can take it home on the weekends now that they know how to use it. But then there's also young women who have had something happen, and it's very difficult for them to have that conversation. So luckily we have the options for sexual health nurse who is there to talk about them and to talk about other ways, other products they can use that they don't have to insert something if they're uncomfortable. So it's a big conversation that is happening, but it's very subtle. No one really talks about it until you overhear something. So I think it would be great to do more around removing the stigma on menstruation and not have it being such a taboo subject. I mean, most of us have all done it at one time or another. Some of us are thankfully over it. But it's a fact. It's a fact of life for how many years of their lives. So in a nutshell, that is what goes on at the wellness centers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Monica. So next we are going to hear from Jean. And Jean is, like I mentioned, the events and community event coordinator at United Way Interior BC. And she's just going to chat with us about where we're at with the Period Promise campaign here in the interior.
Sure. Thank you, Christine. And thanks to Paige and Monica. Really, that was a very insightful. This is the reason why we're doing what we're doing with the Period Promise. It's when we sort of ground ourselves to really the need and why we're doing it in the first place, it puts to perspective really that periods it's a fact of everyday life for women all across anywhere really. It's just a biological fact. However, in what ways in order to address that, or in order to kind of manage that, unfortunately, societal differences and inequalities do hamper access to many of the people in our regions and in our communities. And this is why, campaigns such as the Period Promise campaign has been a very fruitful activity that we've seen across, not just in we've heard a lot from Christine of how massive it's been, being picked up across the province, but even within the Southern Interior region in itself, we've seen a lot of uptake from our community, even just from the ground up, of folks wanting to show up and really show that this is a problem that we want to fix and we want to solve from our end. So I'm just here to really sort of piggyback, I guess, from everyone else has been talking, and to also, I guess, end on a note that at the end of the day, this is, as we're all kind of and on the same page in terms of what the impact is, and that we want to also make a difference and address period poverty across the region. So I'd also want to, in knowing that, and I'd like to thank Christine really for not only rallying all of us here to, to rally back behind this initiative, but also to, in your leadership, Christine, and in the leadership of the Women Who Wine, which I love, by the way, nice name. I'd like to be part of that, but in their leadership, that you've rallied your community in order to support women and girls across Salmon Arm and beyond. So that in itself is it takes leadership and commitment and guidance. And I'd like to, that's why that's one of the heartening things about working for United Way is we get to meet community movers, community leaders such as you guys. So and I hope towards the end we're inspired by what we heard from the reports and what we've heard from the stories, in order to know that at the end of the day, really every dollar does count. I have some statistics here that I knew of that generally even say a $10, $10 donation can help one person in need for about 1 month. And putting that into perspective, I know that our Period Promise campaign in the Southern Interior BC has seen an uptake in over the years, even just, every year across, I could speak to last year in particular, we raised maybe roughly around $1,000 worth of products, which we were able to support to more than 10 partners across our region. So imagine how much we can make, how much impact we can do when, by say, like not really drinking coffee for 1 week, not buying some Starbucks over for 1 week, saving that up and, supporting a child or an Indigenous person who, is forced to choose between food or their period products. So at the end of the day, it's a very, I'm speaking a ramble here a little bit, but I do want to acknowledge that, firstly, to say thanks to everyone that is committing to really support the Period Promise campaign, and to know that we, this is us as United Way. We're very heartened to hear and witness all of these leadership from the community showing up to support that. So yeah, thanks so much, and I'm excited to see what comes next, even moving forward, and in the coming years, to see this grow bigger and bigger as it should. Ripples of change. Thank you.
Thanks, Jean. I really appreciate all those kudos, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still need to get some donations, and we need to follow through on the action steps. So that's what our next portion is about, is how you can get involved. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. If you can see that. Thumbs up if you got that. Okay, awesome. So we heard from Jean. What can you do to help? Well, the first thing that you can do is, the whole reason that I started this Period Promise campaign in Salmon Arm is because I saw a Union sister of my friend, a Union sister in the Lower Mainland, post for her birthday, for my birthday, donate to the Period Promise campaign. And I thought, well, I can whip out my credit card right now and feel good for a minute, or I can put my organizing hat on and make a big impact in my community. So I think we all need to think that way, is like, instead of just what can I do, like maybe you can donate a couple of products, maybe you can donate $30 or something like that, but can you engage somebody else that can go out and help us to raise these funds and to get these products as well? So think about your friends that work in large organizations. I miss my global server of 50 people that I can just like, hey guys, this is what I'm doing. Donate here, envelopes at the front desk of the college, and then just the money just starts coming in, or the products start coming in. So think about people that are in that situation where they could access, 50 people with a hit of a button. A lot of the way that the Period Promise started in the Lower Mainland was a lot of union activists that really drove that. So if you can think of anyone, I know we have CUPE locals here. I know we have BCG locals. So if you know any of those people, they often have organizing hats on already and are very quickly able to do that. But it doesn't, union activists are not the only movers and shakers in our community. Just think about people that have a large network. If you yourself can organize a drive in your workplace, maybe you're one of these people that has, 50 people's emails at the tip of your fingers. That would be amazing, and we will help you do that. Our team of Women Who Wine people will help you do that. So there's a few different ways that can be done. You can either organize a product drive, so just set up a box in the office area of your business or organization and have people bring physical products. A lot of people do enjoy that kind of aspect of giving, physically being able to do something. So I do really, anytime that I do one of these drives, I feel like it is a good option. But other people just want to give money. So we have a link that they can just donate to as well. And what I would really suggest is, because people like different things about giving, some like the physical aspect, some people like the monetary aspect, I would suggest, if you're going to organize a drive, to do a hybrid. And so, where you give people the option. So I think Laura is going to put in the chat right now the form to sign up to organize a drive. My daughter's just coming in with grandma. Hi, honey. Mommy's done soon. So you can sign up to run a drive, and you don't have to decide right now what kind of drive you want to do. And you don't even have to be committed to running a drive. Just if you're interested and think it might be something you're able to do, let's just stay in touch. And that form is really the best way for us to stay in touch with you. Another thing that I was thinking about was soliciting corporate or organizational donations from your affiliation. So I happen to be on a call with my soccer organization because we're randomly planning a soccer season with the provincial health orders having being lifted. And I just said, hey guys, like, we're a women's organization. I'm doing this thing. Do you think we could contribute? Like, we haven't suffered during the pandemic. We're a nonprofit organization that only has costs when we run seasons. So we haven't lost any money. Do you think we could give back? And so they made a motion to donate $100 to the campaign. So if you're part of an organization, a board or something like that, that might be able to do that, I think that would also be a great avenue to take. There's businesses that haven't suffered during the pandemic that are looking for ways to give back. So if you know of a business or an organization that you think might be able to spare some dollars for those that are suffering during the pandemic, that would be awesome as well. And then the last thing I would say is just keep this conversation going. You know, there's a political component to this as well, where we need to keep our foot on the gas pedal in terms of the message of this being a real social justice and an equity issue. And that's how we got, you know, menstrual products in the school districts. It's not good enough yet, as we heard from Monica, but it was a little bit of a win, right? Now we need to get them in colleges, which the student unions have actually started taking on, which is awesome to see. But we need to keep this conversation going for sure. So, you know, I know some of our school district trustees, Amanda Krebs, Mary Ann, they're amazing and super receptive to feedback. So, you know, anytime you can have the ear of somebody that could make some policy change around some of this stuff, please take that opportunity to keep having that conversation. So I think Laura has, and of course, you can also just donate as well. And so Laura has put in the chat the volunteer sign up as well as the click to donate. And that's really all I have. Oh, I think I skipped question and answers. I'm sorry. I went right to how we can do this. So maybe we'll take just a few minutes at the end here. I am cognizant of the time. I want to try and wrap up by 4. But does anybody have any questions either about the research for Paige or Monica or Jean or myself, or any questions about organizing some sort of campaign? If you want to just raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Christine, can I just mention one thing?
Yes.
I asked some of the girls about Diva cups in the high school.
Yeah.
And a lot of them would like to have them, and some of them already do.
Okay.
But one of the reasons why it is so inconvenient is how far the washroom door is from the sink. And if their hands get a little messy or unclean, there's been teasing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's rough. I don't know how to fix that.
I know.
That's
but
like,
yeah.
That's like that whole like menstrual awareness and destigmatizing and stuff like that. So, I mean, that can definitely be part of the work that we continue doing as this becomes an annual thing for sure. So Kathleen was asking, do donations have to go to United Way, or can they go directly to Safe Society or SD83? So that's a great question. So the link looks like it goes to United Way. and you will get a charitable receipt from United Way. However, that specific, as long as you use that specific link, the Salmon Arm PP, they have it attached to a special account that's being tallied, and then we will get that money and purchase them specifically for our products in Salmon Arm and the Wellness Center. We did that because we wanted people to be able to get a charitable receipt, and we just couldn't get that like set up for specifically Salmon Arm. And then, but we also wanted it to go directly to the community. So that's a great question. It is going, it's going to be a big pool of money that we get given to purchase the products and goes directly to there. Paige, can you give me an estimate of how many packages of tampons, pads, cups, safe could use each month?
That's a tough question, Kaylee. It really depends on the month, like how many folks are coming and going, but like, you know, I would say 20 packages a month for in-house, but then if we're also wanting to support drop-in people, we could go higher than that. But I also, you know, there's lots of other really worthwhile organizations in the community to support too. So I think anything that you guys can provide, it helps supplement what we're already able to get.
Thank you. I'm back with a baby. And Elena just commented in the chat that Liberty Tax has volunteered to accept products and donations, which is awesome. And we are looking for many, many more people that will do that as well. So thanks to them. I think that's all I have for today. So thank you so much to our presenters, to Women Who Whine, my team that's going to keep supporting me as we get all of this, as we go through with the action steps that we need to take to make this a successful campaign. So thank you so much. And have a great Friday. Enjoy camping to those of you that are going camping. I hope the storm stays away. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Christine. Good job, everybody.